Welcome to Booklandia, where we review romance novels.
This and every episode are chock full of oversharing and spoilers. Every episode is rated E for explicit.
Look at this, y'all. Thank you. Hey, welcome to Booklandia. I'm Ford with the biceps, because today, right now, in your ears, we're going to talk about Kate Clayborn's The Other Side of Disappearing. Brum, brum, brum. This guy is pulling up the cover for those of you who are watching, or just listening, rather. Well, I'm a Kate Clayborn stan. I've now read... Okay, great. Excellent. I read all of her backstock last year before. So, I'm up to date. And this was the newest release. Came out early 2004. Kate Clayborn stan. I will say, I feel like in our book club group, people have generally, the interest level, the excitement level, the like of her books is kind of declining. Like, everybody was like, love lettering, 5 stars. Love at first sight, 4 stars. This book, 3 stars. Everybody, there's a very noticeable decline. I'm still a stan. I've given this book, I actually didn't rate this book on Goodreads, so my today rating was 4 stars. It wasn't a downer for me. I think it's because, and I want to talk about this, it's a road trip book, and those are generally kind of interesting and exciting, and her writing is so good, and there's clever turns of phrase, and the character has a very unique head voice that I really enjoyed. I would say so the male character, the male romantic interest, is also kind of a golden retriever, puppy dog-ish type character, but he not overly so. It was balanced within the whole tone of the book. So, didn't bother me. I liked it. It's the Seattle of Kate Clayborn books. It's really hard when the 4 sort of lead characters, which we should really do the blurb, but Jess is worried about her sister and protecting her sister the whole time. Her sister is mad at her for being protective and other things I can't remember because I read this book 3 months ago. Salem, the podcaster, is having marital troubles and other things we find out in the book. And then Adam, the love interest, is just trying to do his job, but also trying to protect Jess. And so everybody, no one's problems were silly or fun or lighthearted problems. So I totally get what you're saying. Absolutely. Shall I tell the people about the book, and then we can come back to that and expand? Excellent. Do you want to count me in? Okay. Yes. Jess is an all-black wearing hairstylist who's been raising her younger sister for the last 10 years. Now Tegan is 18 and about to head off to college. But before she does that, Tegan is determined to find their biological mother with the help of a famous podcaster, Salem Durant, and her handsome producer, Adam Hawk. They embark on a road trip / emotional journey of self-love, discovering, and lost postcards. That's a very well-written blurb.
Oh, hey, thanks. And you still have plenty of time. It just now dinged.
It just now dinged? Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I was reading the blurb, because I can read and have thoughts at the same time, it's a specialty of mine. I realized that the tone of this episode is kind of the tone of the book, which is subdued, but a lot of going on. Maybe a little bit too much. Chaos? ? So we accidentally are emulating, I think, the tone of the book kind of accurately.
Yes.
Lens flare.
Yeah, I don't know about your lens flare. It's just happening.
I know.
So yeah, my 2 cents on the plot, yeah, maybe it's just me. But
I have to in this podcast of 2, it is just you. For me, this book had an extremely well-balanced plot. As I was thinking about it to prepare for recording today, I was thinking about how this book could be like a movie. I would even rather see it as like a limited series because it's a road trip play and they have all of these stops in these towns that they go to. And Salem, all of Salem's family drama could be an excellent B plot. Like they do this road trip, they meet these weird people, they have these things that they're these milestones and things they're trying to get to, and it was all well balanced. Unlike the other book we were talking about earlier in this season, it wasn't too much plot. Ooh, now I'm punching the microphone. It wasn't overwhelming, but still a lot of stuff. Sorry,
Yes.
You did a finger thing like I said a great idea, so you can praise me now.
I think no, you're right. I did. I think it would make a great miniseries. I would absolutely watch this miniseries. And it would have a gray filter on the whole thing, and someone very sad would write the lyrical musical undertones for the whole thing.
Sure.
And like everything would be a little bit emo. And there would be plaid. They would wear plaid.
Oh. I think, well, she couldn't. She has to wear black.
She has to wear, you know what? There's a black on black plaid. Grays are involved. So, yeah, no, I think
that, hold on. A black on black plaid with gray, therefore makes it not black on black.
Fair. There's some gray in it.
Okay. All right. Accepted. You were saying.
I was just saying that I think it would make a really great miniseries. I think it would be really, like, it has so much potential. You could create the entirety of the original podcast that they talk about and like release that. And then you can do the like the podcast that they create while they go on this journey. Like it could be this whole, hey producers, if you're listening, which I know you're not, so it's okay. It could be a whole thing, but
amazing. So I read this book, I think almost back to back while watching Bodkin, which was a mini series on Netflix about a podcaster who's trying to solve a cold case in Ireland, Scotland. And it had a very similar, like, gray, dark well, it was a dark comedy.
It is a dark comedy, yeah.
So a lot of my memories of this book are also tied into that show, and sort of because it's about a podcaster creating a podcast.
So I actually have so I watched Bakken while reading this book, and also Only Murders in the Building. And I think I really wanted this to have that tone a lot more than I wanted it to have the Bodkin tone. Or Bodkin is great too. I needed the uplifting and the funny and something. Okay, I will also say I have been in a dark place for a bit, and maybe it's my dark place and I'm hanging out in said dark place. And this book, I read these books in order to get out of my dark places. And this book kept me there rather than made me exit that place.
So I have two thoughts. The first thought is about podcasts, and the second thought is about Kate Clayborn's evolution. Which would you like to hear about?
Let's finish out the podcast thought and then move on to Kate Clayborn.
Okay. So I always got the feeling, and gonna just finish one sentence before starting another one. I always got the feeling that Salem Durant's podcast was basically supposed to be whatever that podcast was that started this whole like true crime podcasting thing. What was it called? Everybody's screaming.
Wait, are you talking about Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered?
No, the one before that started. Well, fuck. Great. Oh, it was the one about Adnan Syed. and how everybody thought he killed his girlfriend. Is that helpful? The second episode was about a soldier. Okay.
I'm sorry to tell you.
Everybody's screaming it.
Yeah, I am not a true crime podcast listener. And the only reason I know about Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered is because I listened to that book, to their book, because of you.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Can't help you, so sorry.
Yeah, I'm also like, I was in the phase when it was in its peak, and now I am out of it and not listening to podcasts. So I'm also apparently not a true crime podcast listener. But all the clips of like the interviews and how they described how she describes the podcast in the book felt very similar to how whatever that podcast was named set up and did their thing.
Yes, so fully agree.
That, like, tone for tone, equal. Felt really equal. My thought about
your not yes, my
yes.
Go for it.
My other thought about Kate Clayborn's evolution is I think so. She had her Luck series, and it was 3 books, and then she did she have another series before she did Love Lettering? I can't remember.
I don't think it's a series. I think there's some standalones in there.
Okay. So she had her Luck series. Those were her like first 3 books. She had a couple of standalones. And then I consider Love Lettering to be, it's the one that got the most press. It's been the most popular so far of the books. I think that's the beginning of this like 3rd era of hers. Third act, shall we say. And now we're 3 books into her 3rd act, and you can like Love Lettering is
this is like 4th book since Love Lettering. Sorry, I pulled it up. Yes. So because there is Love Lettering, Love at First, Georgie All Along, and now Other Side of Despairing.
I forget about Georgie All Along. Interesting. I forget about it for reasons. Because I did not, that's the one I didn't like.
Also, to answer your other question, other than the Luck series, she wrote Missing Christmas, or it is new. It's a short story, I think. It's a short story for that world. Yes.
So we're in an Act 2 situation.
So
there's the Luck, and then there's an Act 2 situation. Okay.
And I would say that Love at First and Love Lettering and Georgie All Along, at least the way that the publisher has presented them, all look like they're kind of a compendium. They're not in the same world. They're not the same characters at all. But they're sort of,
that we know.
There's a sameness to the way that the covers look. This looks really different from the other 3 and from the Luck series.
But yes, definitely different than the Luck series, which I think have had a couple of covers at this point.
Yes.
But like Love Lettering is sort of like this fluff ball, like in a dollhouse kind of story. And it's just like, to me, it's like all light. It's very light. It's very bright as a story.
Except for the embezzling bit and the FBI being involved bit.
I don't remember that part. That part.
And were they like, they had to be deposed and then they couldn't talk to each other for a while?
Was calligraphy.
There was calligraphy.
Bad can happen when calligraphy is involved. And paperweight. Paperweight is very important.
It was
and then there's
indeed.
Love at First Sight, which is like
Love at First, and the sight is implied.
Okay, like if we ever do transcripts again, it'll be in parentheses. But like there are plants and balconies and like nature, and it's again kind of sunny and bright as a story for me is my intention.
Absolutely, there's the big dark is not that big or that dark.
Yeah, I remember nothing about Georgie All Along, but what was that one about?
She comes back to her small town. Her parents are like hippies that get high a lot. And he is a grouchy dude that lives on a dock and like never talks to anyone about anything. And she starts working as a server at a country club, and he has to go to the country club because he's a business owner of some sort. I don't remember what business he owns. She used to be a personal assistant to some famous person, and she burnt out, and she put all her stuff in her car and drove home to her parents. And she's supposed to dog sit for her parents, and so does this dude. And the very first scene of the two of them is she's swinging a bat at him, and he like steps out of the house, and they talk through the screen door. And they try to explain to each other that they were both tasked with watering the plants and looking after. He has a dog. His dog is a rescue pit bull. None of this.
Great. No, but what I'm like, that's kind of a sad story.
It's a little bit sad. She deals with burnout, and he deals with I want to call it PTSD. Like, he's had bad experiences in his life, and so he keeps to himself a lot. So they have definitely more darkness than the characters in Love Lettering or Love at First. But then they like have really lovely turnaround moments as well.
I think the overall point that I'm trying to make is that she's evolving, and her characters are kind of getting darker and more complex, and there's less sunshine in the stories. Now we're in sort of a partly cloudy sort of mode. And I think you start to see that evolution. Sunshine. I understand what you read it for. I'm saying an artist might be evolving.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't disagree.
She's transitioning, and this is something that if you're going for the fluff, when her next book comes out, you should maybe pause and consider if you're expecting the fluff and the sunshine, if you will be getting that, if you too see the evolution that I'm trying very poorly to explain.
No, I see it, and I hear you, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
that's possible. It just like,
it's like, should we expect artists to do the same, give us the same thing?
No. I mean, that depends on the person. My ADHD brain says absolutely yes, because I feel so much less anxiety about the knowable, right? And
yes,
the reason to pick romance, to read romance, is for the knowable, for the reassurance of a happy ending. This book is still targeted to the romance reader, like in every way that it was published.
They end up together, but there is still there's a big heartbreak at the end of this book, and that it hurt. It broke my heart too, but that was also such a unique experience to care so much about how their relationship with their mother ends up, and then for that to just fall to pieces, and then still she has a happy ending. There's still a happy ending there. Jess still has growth.
Right. I have no issue with any of that if this book was labeled contemporary or women's literature. Lit? No, it doesn't have to be women's lit. It can just be literature. Her writing is beautiful.
That's why I said it with a sneer.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you tell me it's a romance and then it's a traumatic experience with a happy ending, that's a different story.
But that's what some romance readers want. There are people who come to romance and they want there to be trauma. I think we're all about to read a bunch of Colleen Hoover trauma, and people fucking love that.
I know. So all I'm saying is that
you don't.
I'm not interested in that. I am feeling traumatized enough IRL. I'm good.
Got it.
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
What I really liked about this book, and I didn't realize it until 3/4 of the way through, or towards the end when she kind of punches it a little hard, but the title, The Other Side of Disappearing, the whole thing is that they're trying to find their mother who disappeared. She left with a man, and they find out that this man is an incredible con artist, and they want to help her. They want to get her away from them, whatever, but she's also left them before. And so there's a lot of, I abandonment issues there, especially for Jess. And what I really liked is that it was also about Jess not participating in her life. She's not on social media. She doesn't have friends. She doesn't go out. She takes care of her sister and she works at her hair salon. And that's it. And there was some revelation or realization where somebody said, you need to stop disappearing from your life too. And so I was like, oh, it's not just about her mom, but it's about her. And I fucking love a double entendre. Did you realize that it was a double entendre before I did? Did you have that realization?
I mean, I thought that the entire title referred to the people left behind, and that it was all about like the fallout of a person disappearing, and that we don't like. There's so many stories about finding the missing people, what the missing person is experiencing in wherever they are. There are very few commentaries about like, this is what it's like when someone disappears and you are left with a giant hole in your heart, or a giant hole in your caregiving schedule. So I always thought that it was about other people, like the people left behind.
Right. So yeah. So Jess and her sister Teagan. Yeah.
And then the same is true for Adam in terms of his friend. Right, he is left behind. Adam is left behind when his friend,
dies.
Yes,
I don't remember his name. And you could even apply that to Salem's family, who we never get to see or meet, but she leaves them to go pursue this podcast.
Yes,
so I think there's lots of color to that.
Yeah, I fully
Once
agree.
again, would make an excellent TV series.
Yes, it would.
Yes, sorry if my mic cut out just a minute ago. Finnegan Murphy was calling me, so I had to red swipe him.
Oh, no, totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, sorry, so many ums. Okay, so I don't actually have a lot of questions about this, because the thing is that much as I didn't care for the tone of the book, it is really well structured and the characters are really well developed. So there's not much I need answered. I just have some soapboxes to stand on. And here's the first one.
Slide that apple box right under you.
Okay, so here we go. At the very, very end of the book, Jess surprises Adam with a tattoo. She makes it a huge deal to keep it a surprise, and she doesn't want to show it to him until Christmas morning. Can I just say what a terrible idea that is? It is permanently on her body, regardless of whether or not he likes this surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can laser remove it, but like, firstly, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it feels super weird to be like, I scarred myself for you. Isn't it pretty? Don't you love it? Like, what are you going to say to that? No, terrible idea. Like, no one's going to say that, right? I mean, maybe someone will. Perhaps that's a book.
Would.
Somebody would. But like, that's a terrible, like, I would absolutely hate that moment as the recipient of that surprise. Caveat, I don't like surprises, end of sentence. But like, if someone's like, look, I did this thing and it caused me pain and I spent a ton of money on it and now it's permanently on my body. Cool, dude. Like, if you did it for yourself and you're just sharing the joy of it with me, amazing. If you did it for me, hell no. Please no. Please do not do that. That is some codependent shit. No, thank you.
This is your exact response to Eddie's surprise. You hate surprises so vehemently.
I really
that
do.
This is really, I think, fueling this.
I really do. Surprises are so stressful. They're so inappropriate. It's so not okay.
look, even remember what the tattoo was of?
It's remember? The field, yeah. So she had a feather under her ribs from when she was 18, and she gets it covered up with the wildflower field that they spend the night in. Yes.
Okay. Did not remember that. I will say, if we're talking about art and motifs, a tattoo is the opposite of disappearing. Ink is permanent. It's permanent.
Sure, yes.
I know you said you can laser it off, but yeah.
I have no objection to her getting the tattoo. And I think what she chose is lovely. My only objection is that she's like, this is going to be a Christmas surprise. And I have my sister in on. No, just share with him the joy of doing this thing that brings you joy and brings him joy. That feels a whole lot healthier.
You hate surprises.
I 100% do.
Two colors shining through.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, it was weird. It felt weird and shoehorned in, but
yes.
Also, it's a fluff story.
Even though it isn't.
By that point, it was the epilogue. It's supposed to be the fluffiest part of the book.
It's true. I have a second soapbox. You ready? We're.
Oh, hold on. We're gonna stack this apple box on top of the first apple box.
That's actually appropriate because we're gonna need to be taller for this second one.
Okay.
So here's my problem. There's a scene where they have sex standing up against a wall in the hotel room.
Yes.
We are told that she is 5'9" and he is 6'7".
Wow.
I'm gonna need a diagram as to how that worked for them. Because
she stood on her suitcase.
I could not imagine it. And then I will tell you that Book Talk did not disappoint. People tried to make illustrations of this, and it brought me so much joy. Because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, of course. When you said illustrations, the first thing my brain thought of was the illustration of how Godzilla stands on the ocean floor. Have you seen that one? So that's what I imagined is it super long legs or is he just standing on a hill?
Right, exactly. So yeah, is this hotel room just really unevenly floored?
Is there stairs? Is there a stair against this wall?
Right. And then there is, in the text of that scene, a point where she wraps her legs around him, which again is great. Yes. Except for the bit where I still don't understand how the geography works out. Because then she would be too high up. Because of how tall his torso is. And then she's
you're being too literal about waist.
Agreed. And then she's like, this is the way that I can, this is the position that works for me. And I was like, because you've been with 6-7 dudes before?
I mean, you know kind of quickly if it's going to work for you or not.
I mean, sure. But I was just like, because he's poking you in the rib?
Yeah. Sorry, my thought was poking her in the ribs from the inside or the outside. I don't remember a dick description. Incredible.
It was clearly a whale situation and just did all the jobs. Or an elephant one that can scratch the underbelly. Yes,
I saw that meme this week too. Ridiculous. Literally.
So
yeah.
Off the soapboxes I go. Back to my regular height where
amazing. Where all of my comments will now poke you in the ribs. Excellent.
Yes, please and thank you.
Hot. I guess I don't really have a soapbox, but I really liked that this was a road trip book. I have not intentionally, but I don't really gravitate towards road trip books. I haven't read the Beth Leary one. I haven't read the
Alison Cochrane one.
That's who I was going to say, but I wasn't 100% sure. And so and wasn't there one where exes went on a road trip together and they fell back in love?
That's the Beth O'Leary.
That's the Beth O'Leary one? Okay.
Yeah.
So this was really refreshing and kind of delightful for me. And the fact that like they do it because her mom sent them postcards and she hid the postcards from Tegan inside of a curtain rod. Like, that is the cleverest fucking hiding place. I would have never guessed in 1,000 years to look inside a curtain rod.
I agree, but like, again, how wide is this curtain rod? Because have you tried rolling a postcard?
What? No.
It would be too hard to fit in.
No, it's a curtain rod that's like 1.25 inches diameter.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because now this is what we're discussing.
It's not Coke can width.
Clearly.
It's not like Minotaur dick. It's like just like
things I did not think we were going to mention in a conversation about a downer.
Well, welcome to Booklandia. It's like a slightly more narrow than normal penis size. Maybe normal. I don't know what the normal width of a penis is.
I would also say that I've never tried wrapping a postcard around that.
That would be delightful for your partners, and I do not recommend that as a sexual maneuver, unless you're calling it airmail. Oh, or unless your partner is into paper cuts.
So many comments, and none of them are about this book.
My sweet tea just hit, everybody. The sugar rush has come. Enjoy. Anywho, I will now forever be looking for things inside curtain rods. If I'm ever like in a haunted house or I gotta find a treasure, all treasure maps must be hidden inside curtain rods. So it was very clever. I enjoyed it. There's also something really interesting about postcards in this day and age, because nobody does postcards anymore. We have one friend who was like, "Ooh, get me some postcards from your summer vacation." I was like, incredible. I would have never thought of that, even though racks everywhere still, but like nobody postcards anymore. Nobody letters. It was interesting. I liked it. Took me back to an era when I was a youth.
Snail mail. How we mourn you.
How we mourn you. And you have to have specific postage. Anyway. Shall we take a break and let's see if I get either more hyper or less hyper?
Excellent. I'm going to try to stop crying. Okay. We're going to see how it goes.
I'm going to show everybody this bicep now.
Favorite moments from the book, and if this book made us want to get naked. Okay, I have to tell you that you know what? Bicep first. This is Booklandia, and okay. We are back. And I got to tell you that technically this episode has been a hot mess for me. There have been so many audio issues, so if anybody is still watching the video of this episode, you get a gold star and like a follow back. So just holler, because yikes, poo, yikes.
Yeah. Look, if anybody's expecting perfection, get the fuck out. I don't show up here for perfection.
This is not it. This is not it. I'm just gonna sit all the way back.
Sit all the way back. And I think maybe we should have known that this was going to be sort of a loose issue because neither of us are wearing bras. So we're having loose issues. Motifs,
Thank you.
Maybe.
Thank you for sharing that with the universe. I'm gonna double stack the blanket now.
You didn't tell me not to share, but also congratulations to the people who are watching.
Wow, I do not know what to do with that at all. We are supposed to be talking about The Other Side of Disappearing, a very sad book.
According to you and you alone.
Well, not just to me, but also to me.
To the two people in this podcast.
Right, of the two people in this podcast, only to me. But let me tell you, I am not alone.
Okay. What of this book, what was your favorite moment?
I love the wildflower field. Like that whole scene of the two of them going out in the truck. Lovely. I had some, choreography issues because I was like, truck beds are very hard.
Not comfortable. At all.
But she does bring up, like, there's a sentence about his knee giving out at one point, and I loved that was there because it was like, a person with an injured knee is not gonna keep kneeling on a flatbed.
So, like, truck beds are notoriously ridged, but
Exactly.
not for anyone's pleasure.
Not for anyone's pleasure.
And like nothing like a 2-inch ridge to really not be sexual at all.
Right. Hopefully he brought a lot of blankets. Like he was planning the night out. So,
yeah,
but I did think
mattress.
I did think it was a really it was a beautifully written scene, well staged. Like I followed their emotional arc there very well. So that's my favorite moment, I think, in the entire thing.
Nice. Excellent. For me, it was the sort of the climactic scene with their mother on the houseboat. Like,
that's
I pictured that houseboat. I know, but like so it was that, and then they went to prior to that, they went to a retreat in Tucson. That retreat, I could picture that retreat. I could picture that skeevy man that they talked to. It was just like everything was so well described, so visual. I had a touchstone for like what that Tucson resort place could look like. Houseboats in the Pacific Northwest, I have a touchstone for, like very Sleepless in Seattle vibes, but like clutter and slightly more depressing. So like,
by the way,
it was
more depressing than Sleepless in Seattle is quite depressing. Because a reminder, Sleepless in Seattle houseboat is very depressing because he's mourning his dead wife while trying to single parent a child while living on a houseboat in Seattle. The dude is in a dark place when he calls into that radio station.
Can't think of Tom Hanks as a depressed person. And I can't think of any movie with Meg Ryan being a depressing movie. Like, my memory of that movie is like, again, it's like, yes, it's glazed in gray, but it is still generally a romance. These Sleepless in Seattle and this book have the same tone in my head.
Interesting. I like Sleepless in Seattle better, and it's about a stalker. I mean, she stalks him.
I mean, isn't that what Salem is doing to this con artist that she's trying to find? She's like low-key trying to stalk him.
Oh yeah, for sure. And at some point, yeah, she talks about it. The thing we haven't brought up, and I'm sorry, this sort of belongs in part one of the conversation, but we haven't talked at all about the fact that Salem believes that she had an emotional affair with the con artist, and she had a really tough time in her marriage because of it. And like, so I guess that is, I do have one question, and the question is, right, I said I had no questions, and the question is an emotional affair an affair?
Yes.
And like, what are the rules of that?
So I think if you have an emotional connection with somebody that would hurt your partner's feelings, that's an emotional affair.
I'm a weird person.
That's all. I see. You are very sort of open-minded, and you're in a fairly open-minded relationship like that, where y'all are like, cool, whatever. That's just my.
No, it's accurate. That is an accurate descriptor of it. Yes.
But so I admitted to my spouse that I think I had an emotional affair with a friend, and he was like, "Oh yeah, and that kind of hurts my feelings." And so I felt really bad about that, and we talked about it and worked through it. And so having been in that, I hurt him by having like an intense friendship with somebody else, like having an emotional connection, a trusting connection that was as intense or almost as intense as the one with my spouse. And that was hurtful to him, and so was on that receiving side. I empathized with that whole situation, having been in it. So it's definitely a thing, and I think it's about what are the boundaries in your relationship. And I think the two of us are a pretty good, example of that. For some marriages, that wouldn't have been a problem.
Right.
I think for me, if I was Salem's spouse, I would have been more concerned about who she was having an emotional relationship with, not that she was doing it in the first place.
Right.
Because not only was he a con artist, but he is also content. So it's like a work, it's like having an affair at work too.
Right. And he was in prison for a portion
Yes.
of their relationship or their situation.
The entirety of it, I think, because he
right, because once he was out of prison, he ghosted her. So yeah.
I think emotional affairs get less talk and less screen time than physical affairs. But I would say they're maybe just as prevalent in the real world, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah,
Is there data?
I don't know if
people
there's
with the data, come tell us.
Yeah, so that's something I had a hard time connecting with, because I am the inverse of that, right? Like I love having like deep, meaningful, emotional connections. I'm terrible at them, but when they happen, I'm thrilled that they exist. And like I want to be my entire like chaotic self with all the people. And for some people that is too much, and I am too much, and like that is a thing. And some people really jive with it, and that doesn't diminish the amount of me that I share with my partner, but it also means that I share a ton with other it just feels like being open with more people, and not a thing that I hoard, that I collect into just like one channel of energy. And so I don't know that I could identify an emotional affair.
Sure.
Unless my partner would tell me that they feel slighted by it, in which case that is what that is, right? Like, but I don't know that I could spot it because
of who you are. It makes sense.
Yes.
I want to say you're not the friend that I had an emotional affair with.
Thank you. I don't know that needed to exist in the podcast, but thank you.
Okay, great. Look, it's been a weird podcast.
It has been. So we've just declared not love for each other. It's great. It's going very well.
Not marriage. No. Okay. I can't even define it. I'm not even going to try. I love you. Not in that way.
Fair. Fair.
Okay. I think I know, but what's your hot take on this book? The Other Side of Disappearing by Kate Clayborn, which is what we're supposed to be talking about.
Right. So I said 3 stars, and I stand by it. Writing is still beautiful. The adventure is interesting. It isn't what I signed up for, and I think that's really where the disconnect came for me. So if you like the dark and twisty, then hooray, go you. If you are, if your trauma prevents you from the dark and twisty, then I would steer away. Particularly if abandonment issues or parental issues are on your trigger list, this is not the book for you. And this is the only Clayborn that I can say that about. The rest of them, I would not give so many trigger warnings about. As I like, this one is mired in trigger warnings. So
I would, after this discussion, I would definitely agree. For me, I guess with the exception of Georgie All Along, Kate Clayborn is like a solid hit. Like, you don't get writing this good that often in the romance genre, in my opinion. It's poetic and attachable is the word I'm thinking of. It's not right. Accessible, poetic yet accessible. I thought it's packed with plot. There's a lot going on, but it's balanced. You feel like you're in it, and I think that's kind of what I'm hearing is like you were so in it, it was too emotional for you.
Yeah.
But like she's so good at just like bringing you in. So like I'm a stan. I will keep reading. but I think we're now getting to a phase where it can be hit or miss. Her work can be hit or miss for us. Did this book make you want to get naked?
No, because I just needed to understand how this whole 6, 7, 5, 9 situation happened.
If you had 2 apple boxes, would you get naked?
No, because, and this is a Kate Clayborn thing, not just in this book, but she's more of this is a hot emotional connection, and we've sort of implied the sexual interaction.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In this one, very notably, it was like, he reached for the condom, and then she nodded, and then they were done. Right? Like, there's no actual descriptors.
It's a Vaseline on the lens.
It's very Vaseline on the lens, but you are very caught up in their emotion towards each other. And so it's not sexy in the schmexy way.
Huh. Interesting. Yes, the schmexy way. Which is the least sexy way you could have said that.
Can confirm.
For me, I think maybe like a half naked, like the impulse was there. Maybe it's just a tops off kind of naked. But I think a romance is defined by the A plot being the romance and everything else being the B plot. And this book really towed that line. And I might even say the podcasting was maybe more of the A plot than the romance. But only it's like a 51-49 situation for me. So a half naked, not a full naked. Yeah. A half naked choke, not a full naked choke. It's wrestling terms, I think.
I was gonna make a comment about a postcard that went with the choke.
Look, the jokes I make do not reflect my sexual preferences. That's my that's my disclaimer. The jokes I make on this podcast do not reflect my sexual preferences.
Is that you do not prefer wrestling as part of your sexual preferences?
Or 1,000 tiny paper cuts to my penis.
Got it. Understood. We'll take a note. Pass it on to whoever is relevant to.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Okay,
isn't it like bedtime?
It's bedtime in like 2-ish hours.
So you'll nap and then you'll go to bed.
Probably. ADHDers don't sleep. Check the internet.
If I take a nap, I will not go to sleep.
Yes. Check the internet. ADHDers, we don't sleep. We just take short naps and then panic the rest of the time.
If I sleep after 5, my sleep schedule's fucked up. I can't take a nap after like 4 in the afternoon. Or I'm just anyway. TMI. This is my TMI episode.
Excellent. Okay, so next for me is Season Greetings, which is a short story by Julia Murphy and Sierra Simone in the Christmas Notch series. Yes.
I didn't know the title was spelled like that until I saw it in our script.
Oh yeah, Seas and Greetings, not Season Greetings.
Ocean.
The oceans are involved, but everything about the Christmas Notch series is Christmas themed, which is I think why it's a play on words for Seasons Greetings. Yes.
Delightful.
But yes,
it made me want, like, you and our other book club members who have read this series are like obsessed, and just that title alone made me want to pick it up more.
Obsessed. So. I will also say that that series has so much sex ed in it. Like every person interested in anything that has to do with toys or lube or like literally explains to you when to use silicone and when to use water-based.
Sure.
In the book as part of the story. And it's because they're sex workers. And so like this is just like normal conversation for them. But reading this whole series, I'm like, this series should be sex ed.
Cool.
Because it explains so much in such like fun ways to where you're invested in the outcome, but also like, here's all of this information. And it's just like, yeah, that's awesome.
I feel like sex ed is becoming a trope.
Like, include sex ed in your sexy romance kind of a thing?
But like, there are books where like sex workers are sexual educators. Like, the sex worker as a sexual educator is becoming more and more prevalent. But
yeah, we've read like 3 or 4.
Yeah. Let's see. There was the one where she's a public speaker.
Yes,
there's the second in the
not
the roommate, but the second
not
one.
the roommate experiment, but the second one, which is and he's a rabbi.
Yes.
That one.
There's a Rebecca Weatherspoon.
There's Rebecca Weatherspoon
as well. So
yes.
like, yeah.
And then there's Rachel Lynn Solomon, which she's not a sex worker, but she spends the entire book teaching him how to sex better.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent.
Pleasure, business or pleasure is the Rachel Lynn Solomon. Pleasure.
Yeah. I like it. I like that as a trope. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, it's really great.
And it's always sex positive, which is really also very fun to watch. Read.
Imagine.
Watch in my brain, which is the spiciest place I know. For me, I am finishing up a re-listen of a book because it's going to be our next episode, which is... Does my drumming even... Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. It's a very good drum roll, and I'm very proud of it. How to Marry a Marble Marquis by C.M. Nascosta.
Yes.
I will have memories of this book when we record our episode. I won't be stumbling along, filled with imposter syndrome. It'll be great.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Hell yeah. All right. That it? Anything else? Anything else about The Other Side of Disappearing?
Less sad next time, please and thank you, Kate Clayborn.
Yeah, more calligraphy?
More like just happy, shiny side character people, maybe.
The happy, shiny side character people, of course. Yes. Give us a weirdo.
Give us a weirdo. Yes, that's what I want. Bye. Oh yeah, more guns, please.
Oh god.
Thank you for joining us for an episode of Booklandia.
For more Booklandia, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at l.skyford, Twitter at skyfordl, and hit up our blog, lskyford.com.
We love you to the moon and back, so don't forget to rate and subscribe.
Our eternal thanks for the audio editing and support provided by Finnegan Murphy, who you can find on Twitter at Finnegan1, that's FIONNEGAN, numeral 1, and sometimes Sky herself.